my name is Caroline Belgrave. I'm a senior trainer and formerly a business coach and mentor with NextGen Travel Group. Over the next few minutes, I want to share a few tips and highlights from my recent trip to the United Arab Emirates. So our first stop in the Emirates was Dubai. Dubai is a city full of the world's biggest things. The tallest building is there, the Burj Khalifa, the biggest mall is there, and the world's biggest frame. So when you visit the frame, on one side you have a view of the old cultural ways and Bedouin lifestyle, and then on the other side you have a view of the futuristic architecture and wonder that is Dubai City. I encourage you to visit the frame because 150 meters above ground there is the disappearing floor if your heart can handle it. So we visited into the Emirates during the hottest month of the year in low season, which is May to September. Our trip took place in August, but don't let that high heat be a deterrent. There is air conditioning everywhere in the Emirates. So one of the things I do recommend though, if you are traveling during those high heat months, is to plan your excursions during the early morning or the late afternoon when the temperatures are cooler. There are so many amazing things that you can do outdoors. So some of my favorites was the visits to the gold souk, the fabric souk, or to the date souks, as well as a foodie walking tour where we got to nosh on a variety of different bites. So the beauty of visiting during low season as well is that we got to take advantage of some really great rates on airfare and hotel and our excursions. Two of the hotels that we picked were 5-star properties that included breakfast. So we bypassed doing the world's only 7-star hotel at the Burj Al Arab, and we stayed at our two properties, which was the Pullman Dubai Downtown and the Grand Mercury Residence and Hotel. So as I mentioned, both 5-star, but the Grand Mercury edged out the Pullman by just a little bit. So at the Grand Mercury, it included not only our breakfast, but it had a spa in it, 2 pools, one which was rooftop, which you could take advantage during those cooler months, and one was on a lower level, but surrounded by some buildings so you're not overwhelmed by the heat, which we thoroughly enjoyed. Some of the other features of the Grand Mercury was that right across the street was a hotel and a clinic, which was very helpful for our PCR testing, which leads me to my other tip. Upon arrival at the Dubai International Airport, perhaps suggest to your clients or even for yourself if you're traveling to Dubai, do your PCR testing upon arrival. That will give you 72 hours to visit other areas of the Emirates. Some of the 7 Emirates require you to have a PCR test that's valid for 72 hours to be able to enter, which was the case for Abu Dhabi, which holds 2 of my favorite stops. One was the Emirates Palace, which is a hotel, but it is designed like a palace with gold everywhere. And one of the favorite things to do there is high tea, where you can have nibbles that is infused with gold. The other highlight from visiting Abu Dhabi, which is the capital Emirates of the Emirates, is going to the Grand Mosque, which is, yes, the world's largest mosque. Here you will see the blending of so many Arab cultures and faiths. You will also see the amazing detail in the architecture, from the rugs to the ceiling to all of the intricate designs throughout. So as I mentioned, there's air conditioning everywhere. So in previous years, visits to the Grand Mosque, you'd have to do that outdoors and above ground. But there's now an underground walkway where there's also malls and other shops that you can visit on your walk to the Grand Mosque. You do have to go through security, and you do have to visit the mosque with a guide. which doesn't take any time at all, because as you're walking through, you can learn about the history of the building of the mosque. And for us, because we were there during low season, we weren't rushed, there were no crowds, and we were able to have a very intimate and detailed, immersive tour with our guide, with our private guide, and learning about all of the intricate details. It was stunning. You could hear the prayers throughout the building, and we also had time to stop for some Instagrammable moments in there as well. It was beautiful, and I highly recommend it. So another thing that we did in Dubai was scuba diving. Yes, and that was phenomenal. That was done with coordination with our private guide, Regina, who also coordinated some of our activities, like the foodie walking tour and our visit to the desert for our desert safari. And we did our safari with expert rangers. It was a full day experience where we got to go sand bashing, dune buggy riding. We also got to do sand surfing, as well as have dinner in the desert in an open air tent where we could gaze up into the stars. There was the belly dancing, henna, other cultural dancing as well. You could partake in camel rides, but I recommend foregoing the camel rides at the various desert safaris and visiting one of the other Emirates where they thrive on the camel market and date markets as well. Because who doesn't want to visit the Emirates and taste some dates? I think that would be a more immersive experience. So along with those experiences that we had visiting the Emirates, there are a plethora of things that you can do, from solo travel, couples, multi-generational, but definitely use some tools like Sherpa, where you can find out what your COVID requirements are, as well as your visa requirements for entry. Dubai doesn't require the visa, but you can, for us, we were traveling throughout the Middle East and into Africa, so having that resource was really helpful. There is a luxury element to the Emirates that you find yourself falling in love with, and luxury can take place in a variety of different ways in the Emirates. For example, you could, instead of doing your private taxi or shuttle or transfer to your hotel, you could helicopter into the property. So there's something for everybody in Dubai, in the Emirates. I hope you picked up a few tips here, and I wish you safe travels.